Okay, welcome. We're Mira and Mark Halpert from 3D Learner. We're starting a bit off our original schedule, but we're talking tonight about parenting your right brain kinesthetic, which is a fancy name for hands-on learner to get it right. In this particular session, we're talking about by third grade or sooner. And when that starts, you want it to start now.
And one of the things we've learned over the years is that reading problems tend to persist. And it turns out that almost 90% of the first graders with a word identification problem become poor readers in fourth grade. And that those who have a reading disability or dyslexia in third grade, 74% have it in 12th grade. So if you don't do something effective, these problems tend to persist and often get worse.
So, we've introduced ourselves, but let's tell us a little bit about who we are. I'm an educator and a mom of 4 now adult kids, and we have helped thousands of kids over the last 27 years help right brain learners be outrageously successful when in many cases, they were told, well, as in our case, that these kids would just not be one, they wouldn't be successful learners, and two, they wouldn't be successful in life. We have found that that is just not true.
Our story actually began or came to a head 27 years ago when we were told, when our daughter was in eighth grade, that she wasn't college material at what we call that infamous IEP, or Individualized Education Program meeting. And Mary had insisted I be there because there were going to be 9 people at the other side of the table. And the meeting started with the guidance counselor uttering those words that send a shiver down my spine, which is, your daughter has a wonderful personality. And you know the next word is but. And it was. But your daughter's comprehension is 3 years below grade level, and we recommend putting her on a vocational track for high school so she can get a job when she gets out. And I turned to my daughter and I said, what do you want to be when you grow up? And she said, the teacher I never had. And the gentleman, deciding that an 18-foot grave was better than a 6-foot one, says, honey, you can be a teacher's aide. And that's when Mira became a mom on a mission.
Right. So the other piece, which is why we're so focused tonight on the kids that are below third grade, is that our younger son, I was a little bit quicker at picking up these different things and realized he was absolutely as smart as anybody else, was very talkative, was very social, but we had a lot of moves and we had been season back, and I thought, well, maybe there is just that kind of shift. And what we realized is that he actually was a visual, experiential, right brain learner that saw the world in pictures. And that we then did an intervention that was in a way sort of completely transformational, and made it and helped him be able to be successful early on. So over the years, and we've had the experience of working with older kids, with younger kids. I will tell you from my background of early childhood and now what I know about children learning the decoding and learning, having phonemic awareness, and doing this through the whole sort of dyslexia certification, which I recently finally formalized, was that there are lots and lots of things. This is what we want to go over tonight, is that there are lots of things that go into helping a child be successful. There's visual motor integration. There is balance. There's learning the core. There is attention. There is working memory. There is that whole brain-body connection. There's the relaxation, mindfulness. All of that is also vitally important to be able to help kids be successful. And more than anything, it's getting the parents right from the start to be able to understand what their kids' abilities are and where and what they need to be able to do to be able to help them be successful.
And we believe this dyslexia part is important, but often not sufficient, because the right brain kinesthetic learner learns best when the hands-on approach, and a logical, sequential, and auditory approach will often frustrate them.
Right. So just plain learning the sounds is not always enough for them. They are what we call, they're whole to part learners. They need to see the big picture. They need to see patterns. So they will get those patterns of language, but we need to be able to work on a lot of different things. It's not just targeting. Yes, it's important to understand that that's an issue, but we need to be able to know all of the other kinds of issues and work at that from the very beginning. While kids are still excited about learning and excited about school, we need to capitalize on that and get going. So it's really important to understand the difference between reading versus reading comprehension. And with the big emphasis on reading, what educators and the whole science of reading is all about now more than anything is about the whole individual sound symbol decoding, putting things together. Let's remember that the simple view of reading is decoding, which is the symbol, the sound symbol, and fluency, how quickly you can actually really decode, equals comprehension. Well, that's not entirely true for our visual experiential learners, our kinesthetic. There's a huge language component about having them understand. And it's also this vicious circle that if I don't understand what it is I'm reading, even though I can sort of sound out the words, why would I want to keep doing it? And I think what we're finding more than ever is that we're seeing so many more children that are not reading, but so many more children that are not liking to read. And that to me is, it's almost criminal. So we need to change that. And that's what 3D Learner is all about. Getting kids at where they're at, getting kids about what they love to do, what they're excited about, and giving them and having them exposed to experiences and then the words that go with those experiences, and then they're reading and they're just so excited about that.
And we've seen a number of kids where their reading after training gets, let's say, one kid's case to the 5th grade level, but his comprehension was still at the 1st grade level. So programs like Orton Gillingham and other things, they're very good programs, and they help this part of the equation, but they'll tell you they're not comprehension programs. So reading learner,
they're not specifically designed. They are specifically designed for the sound symbol decoding sounding out piece.
So if you want to improve both, you need to do something that addresses both.
Right. So who do we help? This has been our favorite quote for ever. That if a child cannot learn the way we teach, well, maybe we need to teach the way our children learn. And that's exactly the genesis of 3D Learner. It's how we started, and it's our mantra that we identify and help every child learn the way they learn best. And we empower them to understand that learning differently doesn't mean that it's bad. In fact, if anything, it empowers them to be able to own it and to be able to understand how they learn best. And for parents who, some learn the same way their children learn, and we have heard so many, right, Mark, about, oh, yeah, well, I did it and I struggled and I just don't want to have the struggle for my child. There's no need for these kids to struggle. These are our brightest, most unbelievably creative students. And we need to be able to keep that spark alive and be able to expecting them to be able to learn like everyone else it's just not fair. It's really not fair to these kids because they have this unbelievable, I guess I get lucky about being able to be with them every day because they have this wonderful perspective on life and wonderful perspective on learning. So know that parents are frustrated, but the status quo, right? This is that definition of an insanity of doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different outcome. Not going to happen, and especially for these kids. And they are amazing. As I said, they are amazing human beings. And if we think that we just need to keep doing more of the same, what we're really getting out is a more frustrated, more anxious kids that start to be able to do things that are behaviorally counterproductive.
And for the parent who gets it right in 3rd grade, you're ahead of 99.99% of the other parents. But the key point to recognize is these kids' strengths and their issues are apparent often in kindergarten, 1st, and certainly by 2nd grade. So we switched our focus from success by 3rd grade to success by 3rd grade or sooner, because really you want to address the issue the moment you're aware that there's an opportunity for help your kid to be far more successful with an approach that plays to their strengths.
Well, and for those of you who have decided to pull your kids even out of school, we talked about this actually in our last seminar, on our last webinar about kids that are parents that are homeschooling, helping every child can learn this way. Let's remember Child Development 101 is that kids learn hands-on. They learn by experiences, and they will actually also learn by experiencing the positive parts of reading. And we can help every child. So if your child is even struggling a little bit, let's see what else is going on. That's what we want to be able to talk about. So what are our 5 keys to success? Well, as we talked about, let's forget the status quo. We're just not going to be able to accept what it is. Your child is average. Your child can do this. They could, let's just wait. It's only October. Let's just wait and see what else can happen. That's just not a positive success, or the other way, it's a recipe for disaster. Let's start to look, especially now, if your kids are even in the kindergarten, first grade, and you'll start to tune in about how your child learns best. What are their strengths? What's challenging them? What's getting them frustrated? What's getting them riled up? But on the other piece, what gets them excited? What is that wonderful wonder that they have and the excitement that they want to be able to learn more? Right. Mark will talk about certainly understanding what that present level of performance is like. What are you seeing? Yes, we have lots of people that are doing lots of assessments now, but really understanding, again, as I said, not, let's wait and see. Let's see how they're doing. Yeah, they're coming along, but really, are they coming along? Is that really where are we really assessing our kids the way they need to be? And also, don't be afraid to set bold goals. We talk about bold goals, but we don't talk about stretching beyond, your child is going to be a virtuoso pianist by the time they're 7. Well, maybe they will, but let's set a goal about where and what they can do, and stretch it a little bit more, because when you have to stretch it a little more, you find you have to do things in a different way, and that can make all the difference.
And one of the keys here is parents are often told your kid's at grade level in reading, don't worry. And again, that often goes back to fluency. And you want to make sure you ask the school what's their present level of reading fluency and reading comprehension. Because at the end of the day, fluency, successful language arts, math, history, and science is comprehension. Okay. And then the last point here is select the right dream team, because if your kid has a significant auditory problem, you want to find the right audiologist. If your kid's a right brain learner, you want to find somebody that teaches the way they learn best, because getting that right team makes the difference. It's not about just finding a tutor. It's about finding the right one.
Right. And the one that connects with your child more than anything. Oh, parenting that right brain. See, even saying a right brain kinesthetic learner. Well, we love, you see this iceberg piece a lot, but the point really is that they are shining stars at the very top. What we see that is visible about what is difficult is the decoding and reading fluency issues, and then their anxiety and frustration. And they, by the way, they will often have difficulty putting into words what they don't understand. It's hard for them to explain what they don't get, right? And what's partially visible is the math challenges, or they don't see themselves, and we're seeing this more and more. This is sort of snuck up, I think, on all of educators about the fact that we were so focused on reading that all of a sudden math has become a challenge. And math now is not just about numbers, it's about understanding, it's language. Certainly reading comprehension challenges, and then executive function challenges are what's driving it. Are kids remembering? Are kids able to focus? Are they actually able to process information within a relative quickly amount of time, but also both auditorily and visually? Are they actually able to move quickly? Are their hands and their brain and body working together? Are they able to plan? Are they able to organize? Are they able to put it all together? Or are they just so overwhelmed that they can't do any of that?
And the
And
two issues that are often missed or invisible. One, we've never seen a school assessment and not that many psychological assessments that actually identifies a kid's strengths as clearly as you'd like them to be. Okay.
they
And
put them
the
down to
turns
make
out,
sure that they feel right, but they don't really know how to be able to put those strengths in a conversation about how to be able to use those strengths to be able to help these kids learn. And that's vital.
and the other piece is visual processing. It turns out that in functional MRIs that are done, these kids that are right brain learners, that's the creative problem solving side of the brain, tend to have better peripheral vision. So they'll see the squirrel over there on the right, or they'll see the Honda driving by, but when they're trying to read, their eyes don't necessarily converge to get together in a way that makes reading easy for them to do. And it's a problem with about 3/4 of the kids we see.
Right. These are the kids, and by the way, that can be attention, right? It's much more engaging to be able to watch the squirrel go by than it is for me to be able to focus on something that I just don't understand. It's just not coming in correctly. So it gets quite convoluted, right? So we designed this is a unique 3D learner design that talks about all of these different kinds of issues or capabilities, and that they are all intertwined. Whether it's executive function, whether it is dyslexia, if you have identified that, or whether you're even thinking that's it. But remember, dyslexia is a specific language piece. So it's not always that, but it can sort of be masked if you have all of these other kinds of issues, especially if you are a right brain visual, experiential, visual kinesthetic learner. It can be masked. They can have difficulties with sounding out words. But on the other hand, it is also really vitally important that we identify those issues and identify mostly what these kids are good at and use that ability.
And one of the key points here is for the visual experiential learners, probably about 60% of the kids today, okay? Mm-hmm. Almost all of them have some executive function issues. That might be attention, might be working memory, might be processing speed, might be all three. About 3/4 of them have a visual processing issue, and about 1/3 of them have dyslexia. So dyslexia, while it gets a great deal of the press, is only affecting 1/3 of the kids, at least we see, okay? And because it's just not as prevalent as any of these other three issues. So it's important to know which one of these strengths and challenges your child has, and recognize that most of them have 3 or 4 of these, and anxiety and frustration almost have to come out at that point, because school and homework is just hard, frustrating, exhausting, and anxiety driven.
That's probably, Mark, wouldn't you say that's probably the biggest catalyst of what gets parents over the hump to be able to finally call?
Well,
because they're recognizing that their child is just not happy, and they're not happy.
The truth of the matter is, what causes a problem to a parent to call and to take action really is based on multiple factors. Sometimes it's a school telling a parent the child might be retained. More often than not now, it's private schools telling the parent, unless your child improves, they won't be invited back next year. Sometimes it's a parent just saying, help. I can't with all this stuff. And the good news is, as we say, you can turn this around in months. It's not a lifelong sentence. As a matter of fact, many of our kids who are now in college or who are working out in the field are doing extremely well, because the world needs bright right brain kinesthetic learners who are innovative, creative problem solvers for the jobs of the future. We just have to have them be successful early on, because it affects both their academic success, it frees up time to be a kid, and it boosts their self-confidence.
Well, and we're talking to you now at the beginning of October because we want this year to be the year that bad things stop, I guess, more than anything. More positively saying, positive things can start to happen. And we'll show you in a few more slides later about how it's a positive spiral. And wouldn't it be wonderful to be able to have that start now? So we have, thanks to the Gifted Development Center, and for those of you that have a phone, take this. There's a QR code, or you can go to our website and to this particular link. And there's a series of 15 questions. Take it separately, take it with your child, and understand. Like I can't tell you how many parents are like, oh my goodness, I had no idea my kid did that. I'm one of those, right? When we sat at that meeting with our daughter and it was like, yes, she saw the world in pictures more than she saw the world in words, was an aha moment for me. And if that's true for me, I can only imagine that it's true for you. So it is this wonderful assessment that it's just as hard. There's nothing particularly doing it, but it'll start to give you some insight in how your kid is learning, or maybe how you learn, or how someone else in your family learns.
And by the way, for those of you who like to do some more research, the Gifted Development Center, run by Dr. Linda Silverman, is a terrific resource, especially for what we call a twice exceptional kid, the kid that's gifted and has some learning challenges.
Or the visual spatial learner, which is really who these kids are. And you will see that they are usually way brighter than any other sort of test will ever assess, because there is a part of creativity that is not accessible, right? The other part that we really look at, I personally have the visual processing problem, so I think it's been something that I have been aware of and looking for. Talk about that that peripheral vision that's always looking out. I'm always picking up kids that have vision issues, that their eyes just don't work together. And let's remember, reading is a human-made process. We weren't really designed for that. We were more like hunters, and then there were gatherers. But the reading piece effectively means that our eyes have to be able to come together for something that we're looking at that's millimeters, sometimes small. And so we'll find, our bigger pictures, that we find that kids are skipping words, or they're skipping lines, and they figure out some other kinds of changes that copying something off the board is difficult, or they're looking up and down and up and down and up and down all the time. They make what we affectionately call silly mistakes, and they don't really recognize lining up math problems is a bit of a nightmare. Sometimes it's sports related challenges. We're finding that there are a lot of kids that are really great athletes by the time they are even in second or third grade. But some of the kids just sort of go, no, I don't really want to do that anymore. And it come to find out it's because they don't have, their eyes aren't tracking together to the same spot to be able to watch a baseball come in, for instance, or a tennis ball, or volleyball, or, soccer is really big, but at least that is a bigger ball and it's the ground that they actually are doing. Our studies have found that over 70% of our students are having these issues. So again, there is an assessment that's online. Take a QR code and you're welcome to take it and go over that. That's a completely different assessment. And I think if you use this code, you'll probably get both assessments. So it's an easier download, but take it with your child, and then please call us. Take action, whether it's with us or with something else. Take some sort of positive action about doing something positive for your kids, because they have this and they don't know that they don't.
And by the way, there is a bit of confusion generated when people, especially in the dyslexia world, say dyslexia is not a vision problem, which is absolutely true. The challenge is the two often coexist in the same child.
Well, if you have a vision problem, it makes that dyslexia piece even harder. Right.
And the other thing which is really important is Dr. Silverman did a study with an optometrist, and they found that improving vision could significantly improve processing speed and could actually result in an increase of 7 points in a student's IQ.
Which, by the way, and this goes back to my idea about the fact this isn't just for kids that are having difficulty. These are kids that actually could be even better. Everybody can improve. I think that we've probably found that even in our own experiences of our vision can help even with any of the sports that we do, even at our age, right? Oh, it's really important to understand these executive function piece. There is a lot of talk. You probably hear this executive function buzzword all over everywhere. I sort of love this picture about the fact that these are pointing in together, and what do they form as a figure ground is a star. And when we get all of this together, working memory, attention, processing speed, and that and being able and the one of the things that we use is the interactive metronome that deals with neural timing, so our brain and body are working together, and and being able to have all of these issues, planning and kind of vocabulary building, when you put it together, yes, these kids are stars and they will hit it out of the park.
And it's not uncommon, by the way, for gifted kids to have, let's say, 135 IQ, which puts them in the top 2%, but have processing speed and working memory scores that are below average.
Right.
So here's a kid who's competing against kids who are all 8 cylinders are working, and they're operating as if they have two 20-pound weights, one on each foot. And it's just hard when your working memory doesn't work and your processing speed doesn't work. What we do at 3D Learners, we both assess for those and address those issues where they're present.
Right. Processing speed is a really interesting piece because we're finding so many more kids, and when it goes back to that fluency piece, one of the things that we're finding is one of the most difficult pieces for kids that are struggling readers is that rapid naming, and rapid naming, being able to rapidly name letters or numbers. They stumble over them, or they're not actually able to process that in an efficient time. What that means, if we don't help get that better, is that kids become overwhelmed so much more because they're totally aware of the environment around them is going. But as they get older, being able to process and take that information in and do something with it becomes ever more important. So it is vital. And they go, oh, well, they're still processing. Oh, well, so I'll just get them extra time. That's not it. It's really not it. They need to be able to have that help. And so much of it actually goes back to visual processing, to be able to have their eyes work together, to be able to make sure that information is getting faster.
When we were at a presentation with Dr. Tom Brown, a Yale psychiatrist who's an incredible ADHD expert, he told us all to take out a piece of paper and write on every word he said from the minute he opened his mouth until he was finished. So we all did that dutifully, psychiatrists, psychologists, educators, whatever. And he said, inattention is the inability to pay attention to that which is boring. And somebody said, what else? He said, inattention is the inability to pay attention to that which is boring. Now, what we found out 24 years ago when we got a call from the company called Interactive Metronome was you can actually build neural connections in the brain by matching a beat. And those connections are permanent, or at least they're out there 17 years. And my neurologist friend says that means they're probably permanent. And it can significantly improve both attention and neural timing, which could affect baseball playing, dancing, etc. So while most educators work on just skills in terms of like math, language arts, and that, we try to work at the underlying skills that are needed to succeed.
So remember earlier when I said we talk about a spiral? Well, if your kids are spiraling down, let's think about how to change it and how we spiral up. So we need to be able to identify these kids. We need to identify what they're really good at. We have a full battery of assessments that really look at the underlying issues that are holding our kids back. It's not that there's a disability. It's what have they not learned yet, and what skills do we need to help them, whether it is visual, whether it is comprehension, whether it is patterning and sequencing. We're finding so many kids that are having such a difficult time putting things in sequences and seeing patterns in words and hearing patterns in words, rhyming words. I mean, it is truly, and yet I really want you to observe your kids and what gives them joy. And then they go have that wonderful sparkle in their eyes about, aha, I get it. And then reinforce that piece relate, when Mark talks about attention being that which is boring, it really means that they're not engaged. They don't have any prior knowledge or anything to connect that to be able to have them want to be able to do it again. And if everything around them is just sort of swirling and they can't really grab it, and they really just, I don't know what happened to school today. You ask them because they really weren't engaged. It didn't relate to them. And the more that we can get that relating and understanding and then reinforce it and repeated success, wow, giving these kids the I can attitude makes all the difference.
When we do in this respect is we use something called the structure of intellect test, which has a specific test for kids in K-3 that looks at how a kid learns best, where they're strong, where they're weak. The visit graph, which we showed you before, which shows how the eyes move when they're reading. The interactive metronome, which often shows the kid being able to focus maybe for 10, 15 seconds, but then they're gone. A reading comprehension assessment, which answers that question, what's the present level of reading comprehension? And the UFLY, which dyslexia assessment developed by the University of Florida Literacy Institute, that looks at the decoding and phonemic awareness issues. And it gives us a really good insight into the whole child.
As a certified dyslexia expert for me, we use the core assessment that looks at all the underlying and specifically pinpoints where these kids are having a difficult time. Is it starting right for the younger ones? Is it starting right with alphabet sound, with the alphabet sound, names and sounds, and being able to put those things together? And that we're actually able to truly identify and know exactly where to start and create the correct scope and sequence to be able to help them be successful. And by the way, it also helps you that we're giving you the opportunity, we're training you about how to be able to help them. So we're partway through October, and we know report cards are coming out soon. Some may have even already have them, but we're offering our special assessment program, a special through, if you sign up by the end of the month, we will give you, for your entire family to be able to use, this most amazing program called the Safe and Sound Protocol. It's a listening program that works on the vagus nerve, that helps you self-regulate. And having you with tone, having you do this with your kids together, we will monitor. We don't let you go off and do this on your own. We will definitely be coaching you about how to be able to do this, to be able to help. Let's just get that stress and anxiety out, and then hopefully be able to help clear the deck, so to speak, to be able to help you build a foundation from that.
And it's important to understand that the assessment can be done online or live here at our Coral Springs location. And the Safe and Sound Protocol is done actually using an iPhone or a tablet. So it can all be done remotely, or it can be done here.
Right.
And
thank you for joining us. Please don't hesitate to contact us, certainly either through any of the comments about this, or call us at 561-361-7495, or schedule a Zoom conference call. We offer complimentary, no cost call. If you go to our3dlearner.com/book now, there are open slots almost daily. We'd love to be able to talk to you. We want to hear what your concerns are. We want to hear your joys. We want to hear what you're excited about for your kids, and how we can help you get on this journey.
And put your child on their pathway to success by third grade or sooner.
All right. Do it now. Do it for you. Do it for your kids. Thanks again for joining us. We hope to talk to you soon. Bye-bye.